Welcome to Beyond the Brand, the podcast that takes you inside the world of franchising, brought to you by Business Alliance Incorporated. We're here to share real stories, expert insights, and strategies to help you navigate the franchise industry with confidence. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome. This is Heath Turner with BAI and continuing on our Beyond the Brand series. I am featuring one of our great longtime franchise partners citywide and their franchisee based out of Seattle, Washington area, Jasen Lawrence. And he has been a franchisee since 2012. So we will hear all about how he got that business started in the Pacific Northwest. And hopefully that gives you a little bit more information into the brand itself from a new perspective so that you feel more equipped to present it to your candidates, or if you're here just to learn a little bit more about citywide in general. So Jasen, want to start things off just thanking you for your time today. I know being a franchisee is a busy lifestyle, so I appreciate you cutting some time out for me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I like to start these conversations off really just getting to know a little bit more about you. So before 2012 and becoming a franchisee, what was your background? What was your career before then?
Before Citywide, I worked as a sales executive for Cintas.
Okay.
Cintas is known by quite a few. They are known for their training, doing a really good job with training and development. And
Mhm.
so that was pretty incredible opportunity there. I worked in multiple divisions for them, worked my way up to at least being captain of the sales team. Our team got team of the year back-to-back years, a couple years. And really it was my first real sales job to get my footing and understanding about just prospecting and digging into how to approach the clients.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then what was it that occurred or maybe over the course of some time that made you think, yeah, I think I want to own my own business?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you were to talk to my wife, she would tell you that I always told her before I turned 30, I wanted to have my own business
Mhm.
and was not really sure what I wanted or how it was going to work out. And so always kept the feelers open and kept on the lookout for it. And so it just happened to work out that a friend of mine that worked at Cintas
Mhm.
and had left was the one that told me about Citywide. He told me about the situation and he told me that they we're looking to drive things to the next level and that the local owner had two other partners and those
Okay.
partners were looking at finding somebody that could really drive it and take it to the next level. And so he made that introduction, which was perfect. And as all as things would have it, I was actually 29 when I officially became an owner at Citywide. So I had my own personal goal of 30 and beat that by a year, which is crazy.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
did you buy in as like a co-owner with an existing location? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, that's exactly
Okay.
how it worked out. I came on board as a senior sales executive under the premise that if I knocked out a couple of initiatives that me and the two other partners had agreed on, then
Mhm.
I would have opportunity to buy out the local partner and then buy more from them. And
Yeah.
so that took a little under a year. And so I think I was
Okay.
technically then 28 when I came on board and 29 when I became an owner. And
Wow.
so knocked that out of the park. And then that came to fruition. I bought out the local partner that was here, bought more from the other two, and away we went, which is crazy.
That is, no, that's a fast transformation for those roles. What was it when you talked to your friend about Citywide? What was it about the brand that really piqued your interest?
Oh man, how long do you want this to go? There was quite a few things. The first one was familiarity. So
Mhm.
at Cintas, I was working in selling to a lot of the same industry types. I worked in both the uniforms and the facility service division for them. And
Okay.
so on the facility services side, you're selling the walk-off mats and you're selling the aprons and a lot of more restaurant activity. And
Mhm.
then on the uniform side is all the industrial, the car dealerships, the logistics, the warehouse transportations, the dialysis clinics, all of those. So the first was familiarity. I was used to knocking on very similar doors. The second one was I did a lot of research in the industry of building maintenance. And what I found was that there's a lot of companies out there that are real comfortable with being mediocre. And as a result of that, I was excited because I never considered myself to be mediocre. So I'm like, if I'm above that, I should be in good shape. Like, for example, if you were working with a company or a contractor, a lot of times the frustrations boil down to two things. It's people not showing up, say they're going to, and
Mhm.
them not delivering on the things they're saying they're going to deliver on. And so it was a huge opportunity with Citywide that if we knocked those two things out of the park, then we couldn't help but grow. So it was mainly familiarity. It was the opportunity that was there and a really solid backing to where they support you. They got the playbook and the map outlined on how to be successful. They have
Yeah.
the resources to follow. And then lastly, and then I'll be done. But then lastly, it's the network.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest powerful parts about Citywide is once you are a franchisee, you have access to, man, we're up to probably 110 franchisees now. So you
Yeah.
have access to all 110 that dumped all a good portion of their savings into this and have the
Mhm.
same goals and initiatives. So you're part of a network of people that are willing to help and support you and want you to be successful as well. They want to kick your butt at the same time,
Yeah.
but they want you to be successful. So I'd say those are probably the biggest reasons.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because through doing a lot of interviews with franchisees over the last couple of years, that's something I've picked up on that I feel like is an overlooked aspect of buying a franchise. Like everyone focuses on, yeah, there's franchisors that provide amazing support and a blueprint like you talked about, but the support system around you of existing franchisees, it with some brands that have that culture, like it sounds like Citywide does, that's a huge selling point for someone who's feeling even slightly uneasy about going into business for themselves and doing this alone when really you're not alone. And it sounds like that's the culture that's been created over at Citywide among franchisees too.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit. And what's been cool for me as well is, of course, my two business partners, John and Scott, they're incredible. And then they're connected to several other networks, which are several other locations, rather, which is
Mm-hmm.
given an opportunity for them as well. So you have my buddy Stuart over in San Antonio. We got Jen over in Dallas. We got Ed over in Austin. We got Doug over in Denver. But then even outside of that network, I got a handful of other locations that I routinely discuss with, talk with, benchmark with. My nearest location is down, or neighbor, I should say, in Citywide is Portland. So Rob
Okay.
down there and his team, it's
Yeah.
easy to drive 3 hours south real quick and do some sharing of ideas. But then on the other side, I've also taken a couple under my wing. So I have a
Yeah.
couple locations that I do once a month calls with, mentoring, giving back, because one of the biggest challenges is once you become a business owner, it's like this tunnel vision to like, how do I get my ROI? I just dumped a bunch of money in this and I'm going to continue to pour money into it. How do I get my ROI? But the biggest way to help that is to take a few minutes here and there and reach out to others that are already have already run the race before you, so to speak, and are still running. Because the tips that I get from reaching out to several of these other locations save me so much time and energy and keep me on the right space that it's valuable, but it's hard to recognize that early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I can tell the industry experience and your ability to sell in a B2B environment definitely helped. But other than that, what do you think were some of the skills you already possessed that helped you early on as a new Citywide owner? What translated over well for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things is you can't really teach drive. Like people are driven, they're motivated. You can help with motivation, but you can't really teach drive. And
Yeah.
for me, I put myself in a position oftentimes where there just isn't a plan B. So you got to go for it. So with Citywide, one of the things that I brought over was in order to be in a position to buy my ownership, my wife and I, we cashed out 401ks, we paid the early penalties, we all of that. There is no plan B. But I think as far as skills, and probably better answering your question is for me, I've been fascinated with building rapport. Like I've almost never met a stranger in my life. And so I feel like building rapport is definitely a skill, but it becomes a skill when you genuinely care about other people. Like you want to learn exactly where they're coming from and where they're about. And so I think that helped me a ton because when I'm whether it's me knocking on doors for new clients or whether it's me interviewing people to join my team, like I genuinely want to get to know these people and I want to figure out like how I can help. And I'm
Yeah.
also really good about saying, in some cases, I don't think I can help you. There's been times where I've been in meetings where potentially good sized clients, but I did not feel we were the best fit for them. Maybe it was their situation, maybe it was timing, maybe it was their schedule, or maybe it was just industry type. And I've been in a position to say, hey, I think it would be best for you to do this. instead? What are your thoughts? And sometimes they actually push back and are like, actually, no, we pursued that. That's not what we want to do. Like, how can you help? And it
Yeah.
works out. But what's really nice is it's just important to look at the other person. My mom was in sales growing up, and one of the things she always said was, don't put your own check in front of the customer's needs.
Yeah.
And that's something that's always stuck with me. And I think so when you talk about transferring skills, it's wanting to get to know these people, it's wanting to provide a solution that helps, and actually wanting the best for them. Saying that again, I think is huge.
Yeah. So when you say even potentially good clients that aren't the best fit, that's your ability to disqualify, but to qualify in a reverse way. And
Right.
yeah.
Let me give you an example. Our main area is 5 counties over here in Washington: King County, Snohomish, Thurston, Kitsap, and Pierce. We've gotten potential clients that reach out, and it's a good opportunity, but they're just outside of our 5 counties.
Yeah.
And so now the problem is, if I'm servicing you and you're too far away, some of our key advantages of service, like our selling points, are that we provide you an account manager that doesn't disappear. So we actually actively manage that relationship, and we provide over 20 different services. If you're so far out that it's not easy and routine for the account manager to go and audit, now we're no longer self-managing, which is a huge value proposition. And so those are some of those cases where it's like, hey, we could take care of you, but we're not able to deliver on our own value proposition, which means you're not going to value the relationship as much. So this might not be the best fit.
Yeah. Yeah. That absolutely makes sense. And on the flip side of that coin, early on, what did you find was your biggest learning curve? What were the aspects of becoming an owner that you needed the most help from the franchisor or adjacent franchisees with?
Yeah, some of this might sound borderline foolish, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I'd say it's two things. I would say the first one is how to properly allocate my time. And so the reason I say it sounds foolish is, for instance, the first couple of years I was doing so much administrative work where that's not like, I can do it obviously, but that's not in my brilliance, because I didn't want to spend the money to hire an administrative person to do it for me. So here I am doing a task that I should have already hired somebody else to do. And doing those tasks was taking me away from other like revenue generating activities. So it's that, I would say the first one would be just making sure I properly allocated my time.
Yeah.
I think the second challenge it was just trying to figure out and understand what I didn't know. And so it just took a lot of industry experience to have a better understanding, because all of our service offerings, I wasn't an expert in them. And so I don't feel like I ever needed to be an expert. I just needed to be more familiar. And so there was a lot of the systems and things that, looking back on it, I probably would have spent more time learning and understanding earlier on.
Yeah.
Instead, I just wanted to hit the ground running. It was like, okay, who's our target market? Who's our customer? Okay, I'll see you later. And so taking some of that time early on could have been a benefit as well. So I'd say those.
Yeah. And what did a typical day in the life look like for you in those early days?
Early on, it was just all hunting. It was all hunting. So I would just literally, I would park at the office and just go walking to commercial buildings, just literally door to door.
Okay.
And it was a little bit of a culture shock, to be fully transparent with you, because coming from Cintas, everybody knew who we were. Now, with that being said, a lot of people had positive opinions, some people had negative opinions, but they knew. And so in those early days when I was knocking on doors and giving my interest creating statement or giving my 30-second commercial, people were like, they had no idea who we were. And I'm like, we're right there. Like I didn't even drive here. I walked. And so that was a little bit of a culture shock. But then what I also recognized, it was almost empowering after that, because I was like, wait a minute, the only thing these people are going to know about Citywide is how I explain it and how I convey it. So there is some pressure to convey it appropriately, but there's excitement in setting that standard and the expectation. So a lot of prospecting. Outside of that, there was a huge focus on retention. So when I came on board, one of the things I noticed with the previous local partner was he was not as focused on retention. It was important, but it wasn't a focal point. And so on the sales side, when I'm hunting, if I bring on 2 clients and we lose 1, or bring on 2 and we lose 3, that's not helping. So I restructured comp plans from my account manager. We call those FSMs here. but I restructured the comp plan to be more heavily weighted on retention. I did the
Okay.
same thing. We have another position we call it an account compliance manager. Some locations call it a night manager. So that person is the right hand of your account manager. So if you think of your typical account manager, they stop by, they check on you, they make sure, and they problem solve, troubleshoot, all of that. In the janitorial space and building maintenance, specifically to janitorial, we do all of our work at night. And so as a result of doing that, the facility solutions manager, the FSM, is not the person doing the cleaning. That's our crews.
Yeah.
And so most locations don't have an additional person to route out at night separate from the crew to resolve. And so for us, that's the account compliance manager. And so I also restructured their comp plan. So it's centered around retention. So
Okay.
now each person. So yeah, early on, it was a lot of hunting, and then it was a focal point on retention, because if we're bringing them in the door, we got to keep them. And it took
Yeah.
a good understanding of how to structure like our responsibilities, our commitment to the client in a manner that allowed us to satisfy them more easily. So those are the two biggest focal points early on.
Okay. And it sounded like you had a wide net approach early on. You weren't necessarily focused on certain types of businesses, but really finding as many clients as you could locally. Has your strategy for client acquisition changed at all over time?
Yeah, it's changed for sure. We were fortunate enough to get really popular in the medical space here locally. So
Okay.
word spread like wildfire. We service over our 130 medical buildings, medical clinics, facilities. And early on, we took on restaurants, and now we don't at all. We'll take care of them if they need a one-time deep clean or those other services, but we're not doing ongoing janitorial.
Yeah.
And the primary reason for that is because they're open 7 days a week. It becomes a little more challenging to make sure a crew is doing an amazing job 7 days a week and they get no breaks. Also, many restaurants are open for holidays on occasion, except for some they close, but a lot of them they're open. And then super tight cleaning window. They're not out of there until 1 in the morning if there's a bar open, and they're back in at 6, 7 in the morning prepping for the next day. So I'd say we stay away from those just because it takes a very dedicated crew to want to work 7 days a week forever.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, we're more targeted now, but at the same time, it's centered around, we just know that there's a lot of industries, almost every industry we're really good at. We just want to make sure that we can build long lasting partnerships that are mutually beneficial. And unfortunately, restaurants has been one of those where it's not easy to do.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've heard doing business with restaurants isn't always the easiest too, from like a exchange of payments point of view as well. That's just what I've
Yeah.
heard. But
Yeah.
and so over the last 13 years, how has your day in the life changed? Have you been able to delegate some of those responsibilities a little more and remove yourself from the day to day as the owner? Or what's it look like now compared to 2012?
Yeah, it kind of ebbs and flows. Right now, there's still a little bit more on my plate than I would like, but some of that's because of growth. CBS has become a really popular thing with Citywide, which stands for Complete Building Solutions. And so what that is, we recognize there's a lot of clients out there that don't need us for the janitorial. However, they need to do tenant improvement. They need to do parking lot striping, seal coating, asphalt repair, handyman. I stole this from Rob down in Portland. He says, just tell people we do everything inside and outside, rooftop to curbside. And so I'm in the middle of relaunching like that division of the company. So that's got me running around. I'm currently hunting for somebody who is going to be my director for that division. So a day in the life right now, Mondays, I stack my meetings on Mondays, typically and Tuesdays, which we're moving to Wednesdays. And I'm spending a lot of time just being available for my team, helping my leadership team do their training, even though they pretty much got it, but just offering feedback and advice. And I'd say probably here in the next 45 to 60 days, I'll have a good chunk of my people trained. I just hired a new director of sales, so super excited with him. So overall, my schedule is a lot busier now with more training development than it probably will be here soon. But even then in the future, it's going to be centered around, I want to be spending the majority of my time on people and culture.
Yeah.
It's building a culture is an ongoing project, and sustaining a culture can drive so much results for the company and a lot of satisfaction from the team, which is where I want to spend my time. So I'm getting close, but I got some more work to do before I can get there.
That's exciting though. I mean, it's a good
Yeah.
problem to have dealing with new revenue streams and growing your team. Yeah, that's very exciting. And
Yeah.
when you talk about the expanded services that you can provide customers, that is that all subcontracted out?
Essentially, I guess the short version is to say that. However, a lot of times when people think of subcontracting, what they think about is they think that you're dialing through the phone book to find somebody to plug
Mhm.
in, or it's a company that then has their sub and just the multiple layers. And
Yeah.
so it is important to explain the difference in our approach. So our approach is we find small to medium sized business owners that are really good at what they do and that have their own in-house employees with as a part of their team,
Yeah.
and those are the ones we're using. And we have a full-time person in my office. Her name is Christina. She's awesome. And she does the recruiting and onboarding of to build those relationships. And so
Okay.
there's a pretty strict vetting process to make sure all the things are buttoned up that hopefully people do in the traditional subcontracting structure.
Yeah.
But that's really important. And so the benefit that we've had is we've been able to grow these companies and they've been able to grow with us. And so there's a lot of mutual respect and appreciation that makes that flow really well, that I
Yeah.
feel is different than your traditional subcontracting structure.
Yeah, as I would imagine, you want the best because they're going to be a reflection of citywide to your customers. So I feel like that thoroughly vetting is a pretty important part of that process. And it sounds like you keep those good partners for the long run too. It's not so much finding new ones for different tasks with clients each time, but finding one you can really rely on and consistently sending them business.
Yeah, and it's two different elements. You have the janitorial aspect and then you have everything else, and there is some overlap.
Uh-huh.
The vetting process is huge for both. On
Yeah.
the janitorial side, some people think just because they rolled out of bed and decided that they're their own owner, they can go grab a mop bucket and a mop, and now I'm a cleaning company. That's not how that works at all.
Mhm.
Especially in the medical space, there's a lot of things you need: bloodborne pathogen certification, you need hazardous communication that's there, you need a number of things to be successful. And then on the other side of it, it's interesting because when you get to all the other things, if you're going to replace somebody's roof and it's $500,000, that's a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah.
And so we like to have a good blend of mainly small to medium sized companies that we work with
Mhm.
and partner with, but we also like to have a couple of larger ones too.
Yeah.
But the vetting process is the same across the board.
Mm.
And what I've found is really helpful is if you just treat these crews, these teams, these business owners, as you just treat them like people. It
Mhm.
sounds simple, but a lot of times people think that they can talk to those business owners or contractors any type of way. And if you just treat them as
Right.
people and you have respect for them, it's crazy to see how much they refer you to people they know because they enjoy the relationship. And I think that's huge as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It comes around full circle. And then on the customer side, your contracts with your clients, are they like time frame contracts where you're contracted to do all these services for them, or do they pay per individual service that you do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. We
Okay.
do both. On the janitorial side, the contract terms range in length, of course, with an out or cancellation process that's
Mhm.
there, but there is actual commitment there. On the other services, like if you just need a parking lot, you need your parking lot striped or seal coated or that, we do have terms and conditions in place, but it's mainly outlined as a per project basis. And that's it. And the big reason for the terms on that side is certain protections. We want to make sure we agree on payment terms. We want to make sure that we agree on just some fundamental things. But as far as being time bound, you're not locked in. Now, with our janitorial clients, circling back to that, once you're a janitorial client, yes, we absolutely have a time commitment that's agreed with that process. However, you are free to add as many other things that aren't committed to time based. So just because you committed to a carpet clean one time doesn't mean you have to have us clean your carpet like every quarter. We'll come to you, we'll have those discussions, evaluate the need, and mutually agree on what's needed for your facility.
Okay. Perfect. And
Yeah.
so I'll wrap up here with a couple last questions, but where your business is at today, can you give me an idea of the size, like your team and how many clients you service, just a broad picture there?
Sure. Yeah, our team right now is 35 and growing. I'm looking to hire four more people still, and we've been in pretty serious growth mode with just being able to support the opportunities that are out there. I've hired probably 7 people in the last 4 months.
Wow.
So super excited to have that opportunity. Number of clients right now, it ranges, but we talk in terms of buildings. So on the janitorial side right now, we service about 350 buildings here and spread out in the 5 counties. A lot of the business is in King County because that's where we're located, but we're definitely tackling the rest overall. And I feel like where we're at right now is we're at the like uptick of a hockey stick, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because the need and the demand is actively growing for what we're doing. And we've realized that we need a larger team to be able to just meet the demand and actively go pursue it. It's pretty crazy to think that in Washington State, if you get rid of restaurants, big box retail, and some of the apartment buildings, because if you drive straight to your apartment and walk in your door, there's not a lot of space to need cleaning. There's estimated that there's 17,000 buildings in those 5 counties that are, after you remove the ones I mentioned, that are more than 10,000 square feet. And so if you think about it, we only service 350 roughly, whatever I said before.
Yeah.
And quick math, 10% 1,700, 5% is 850, then 2.5% is 425, and we're right around 350. And so there's just a huge opportunity out there, and we want to make sure more people know that we're here and what we can do so that they can take advantage of the partnership as well.
That's exciting. Would you say what's the window you'd give for the period that's been the most accelerated growth for your business?
Oddly enough, it's during the pandemic. Yeah.
Okay. That's not that surprising considering how important cleanliness was during that time, especially in Washington.
It's funny because it isn't surprising at all, but then it isn't a little bit because a lot of companies that wasn't the case. But if you go back earlier in our conversation, I came on board in 2011 and then took over ownership in 2012.
Yeah.
In 2012, we finished as a $1 million company. If you fast forward all the way up to 2019, so pre-pandemic, we were 6.7 million. So in that 7-year span of 2012 to 2019, we went from 1 million to 6.7. From 2019 to 2024, we went from 6.7 to 15.3.
Holy cow.
And we're not even scratching the surface of what we're capable of. And so what really helped is a couple things. One, heavily weighted in medical. They were calling saying, I need you more than ever. And then the other side of that was we were able to pivot. So we were able to do the disinfecting, but as a Christian organization, we weren't just trying to take advantage of gouging people. So we priced very competitively to service the need. Yeah. And so what that translated into is a lot of disinfecting services, which then translated into some opportunities to provide the janitorial service because people were blown away that we were a fraction of the cost they were getting quoted. And they really took to that, and word spread, which really helped us out. So it's been pretty exciting.
That's incredible.
And we're only scratching the surface of what we're capable of, and it's go time.
I mean, even if you capture, like you said, 10% of the market, that's 1,700 buildings. That's a lot of facilities.
And that's 4 times growth, and that's assuming that we aren't even growing the whole other division that I'm launching, which obviously will be growing that tremendously.
That's incredible. Congratulations on all the success. You've worked really hard for it, and still a long way to go. It sounds till you'll be satisfied, I'm sure. I can tell by your personality. It's what can I do next? Now, really exciting to hear your story. I got one more question. I know we got on over the time a little bit. Apologize for that. But if our organization are franchise consultants, so they are placing candidates with Citywide and other franchises out there. So if you put yourself in the shoes of a franchise consultant and you're going to present Citywide to a client you're working with, knowing everything you know now, how would you present this opportunity to someone thinking about becoming a franchisee?
Yeah, that's a great question, which is a filler statement to let me think.
I caught you off guard a little bit. So.
It's not a hard sell at all. How I would present it is this. What is the probably 2 or 3 things you look for in a company that you want to buy and develop or start? What you want is stability. So Citywide has grown tremendously through the pandemic. Citywide also grew tremendously way back in 2008 when there was the whole economy challenge. And so there's growth during those times. So you want stability, which we have that. The next thing is you want to be able to provide a service that is not limiting you to a very small client base. And we have that. We have 20 plus service offerings. So if someone's okay on janitorial, we have 19 plus other things that we can provide. And so you look at those two things, and then you look at area, like what is the area of my market? What territory space do I have? And if you're buying a lot of franchises, a lot of them are small and limited. Citywide today, on average, they're not setting up newer markets with the 5 counties that I'm fortunate enough to have. That's an early adopter benefit.
Yeah.
But still, what they are setting up is probably somewhere between 800,000 population and probably like 1.5. And if you start thinking about that, you go, man, a McDonald's or a Starbucks or a lot of these other franchises, they're so small. You're getting a couple of zip codes.
Yeah.
And here you're getting close to or more than 1 million in population. So that would be my pitch. Incredibly stable, not limited to one service offering, generous territory size, which means a ton of opportunity. And the fourth thing I would say is then you get access to 100 plus other business owners that have the same goals that you have that are willing to help you out. I just don't know where you're going to get that.
Yeah.
All of those things with any other opportunity that's out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I think of one term to describe a perfect citywide owner, it's empire builder. Just in this conversation with you, it's someone that wants to achieve something substantial in their community. And you've already done that and you continue to do that. So it's been an absolute pleasure to hear your story, Jasen. Thanks so much for cutting some time out with me today. And cheers to continuing to grow out there in the Pacific Northwest. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. If you're ever back this way, give me a shout. Maybe we could go grab lunch or something and connect, which would be cool. And I appreciate you having me on. Obviously, if any of your viewers have any questions, they can always turn back to you. But if there's anybody that has questions for me, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. We can go from there.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. All right.
No problem.
Take care.
That's a wrap on this episode of Beyond the Brand, brought to you by Business Alliance Incorporated. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and stay connected for more insights on franchising success. Until next time.